Let us start our course lecture. Today, we shall discuss on a new topic. I hope you are working on your review on pheromones and their practical application in management of insect pest. And I hope that journey would be exciting and good experience for you. And if it is in a good standard, then I shall try to publish it in a book chapter. So I hope all of you contribute and be serious to learn how to write a comprehensive review on a specific topic. And pheromones are not only potential as a biocontrol agent or biorational agent for managing the insect pest. It is now in the real life, even in Bangladesh. You have seen in many cases in vegetable and other crop management using the pheromone trap. So try to concentrate and learn it, and it is a fantastic group of ecochemical which are in the practical use. Today, we shall discuss some fundamental aspect of chemical ecology or ecological chemistry. Let me show you some of the slides. Uh, is it visible, the slide?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Coevolutionary arms race. Coevolutionary arms race. Arms race, all over the world, it is going on to show the supremacy. Once upon a time, the sword was powerful, and now sophisticated arms people are using. Today we shall discuss on arms race uh, between and among the organisms, and these arms are not the arms we are practically using; they are more sophisticated. Co-evolutionary arms race, especially in plant defense and animal response, is very, very interesting. And this subject has been studied, in uh, 20th century elaborately. Ehrlich and Raven in 1964 were among the first to propose a new theory of biochemical co-evolution in which the synthesis of secondary compounds as plant toxins is specifically related to patterns of host plant utilized by phytophagous insects. I told you earlier that uh, in the world there are, more than uh, 500,000 plant species, uh, known plant species, but few of them are our food. We use 10 to 15 or 15 to 20 species all over the world as our food and energy sources. So human consumption of plant is also limited to around 20 species. If you consider insect and other herbivores, animals, you will see they have limited range of plants as their food. The reason is a plant synthesize lots of toxic compounds to ward off the eating by the herbivores. And herbivores, you know, uh, have no way to get the plants because plant has only the mechanism of harvesting solar energy through the photosynthesis. So, to get the energy, uh, all living organisms directly or indirectly get the energy from the green plants. And however, due to as plants do not like it to be eaten by others, they produce different type of toxins, secondary compounds, to make them deleterious or uh, you know toxic or tasteless to ward of others to eat them. Uh, and this is really an interesting uh, question how uh, the organism herbivores, including human, overcome the biochemical barriers. And it is an evolutionary process and not suddenly it happened. So through the evolutionary process, it is called coevolution. Once plant produce a toxin and the herbivore uh, tries to overcome it, detoxify it, or tolerate it, or somehow, you know, escape from it and get the energy. According to the theory of Earlstein Raven, an evolutionary scenario can be envisaged in which the production and accumulation of particular toxins, for example, an alkaloid, is followed by a reciprocal response in the insect to the toxin. I am talking about insect, but all of the other organisms, herbivores, are also follow the same. That is adaptation by detoxification and excretion so that it can then feed on that plant. So this race is called arm race. Here is a very simple tabular presentation of plant animal biochemical coevolution. That is the coevolutionary arms race, plant defense, and animal response. Here you can see several sequence of event. First event, plant synthesis and accumulation of toxin 1. This is the plant response. Why? So that it can stop the herbivore not to eat the plant. What happened? As new toxin is synthesized and accumulated in the plant cell, response in animals, that is herbivores, avoidance by all species. That means, as it is toxic, when they test and get the experience exposed to the toxic, they avoid it to eat. Second event, continued synthesis. So plant gets the encouragement and synthesize this accumulation continuously, generation to generation. But and response in animal cells no way to get the plant. Uh, so what they do? Adaptation by few species. That means all the species, those who are eaten, uh, ate the plant, uh, not all of them, but few species of the animal or herbivore, they develop avoidance by they developed some adaptation mechanism, but others avoided the most of the species avoided to eat that plant which contained toxin 1. Even 3, survival with only limited predation. That means as some few species started to eat the plant, so some of the uh, plant survive, but others are eaten. Toxin 1 becomes feeding attractant to adapted species. This is really very interesting. Feeding attractant. Toxin 1 becomes feeding attractant to the adapted species. Adapted species use that toxin as a marker to detect the plant. And then more species becomes adapted, causing herbivore pressure. Gradually, other species also become adapted. Even 5, synthesis and accumulation of toxin 2, because toxin 1 is no more functional. Same thing happened as it happened in case of first toxin, avoidance by all species. Even 6, continued synthesis of toxin 1 and 2, adaptation by few species and avoidance by most species. This, evolutionary theory and the events you can easily understand, because any of the plant in this earth, if you analyze, you can find they are producing dozens and hundreds of secondary metabolites. That means they started from a single metabolite, and gradually, due to adaptation by the herbivore, they produce the second, third, fourth, and goes the number increased. Interestingly, neem tree as a directa indica, it has been discovered that it produces or biosynthesizes 2,500 secondary metabolites to ward off the uh, different herbivores. This is why neem plant materials like leaves or seeds are one of the most important source of herbal medicine or herbal insecticide or pest control as it. So this is very, very interesting, how arm race is going on. If you come to our human world, you can see like that. At first, people used the sword, and when cannon developed, and gradually the modern weapons developed, the every country they are getting new weapons, and there are lots of researches going on. And now, you know even nuclear weapons are long distance, even star war can be done by the human made weapons, chemical, you know the powerful weapons including nuclear. And some of the human or country also use the chemicals weapons. Some people believe that the corona vaccine, virus SARS-CoV-2 is also man-made. And practically, as a biologist, my opinion is it is not man-made, but humans are now able to make even more powerful this type of virus, uh, deadly virus. And I met one guy in West Virginia. He is now 97 years old. Manon Gallagly. He told when the Second World War was started, at that time, America uh, asked him to prepare huge amount of the spore of Phytophthora infestans, and other Phytophthora species, so that they can use it as a biological weapon to destroy the crop plants in other countries. So uh, you can imagine the arm race in the human system to dominate one another country or nations are a continuous process. It is also evolving. But arm race in plant and other herbivores is a co-evolutionary process. And this is why you see the plants which are targeted by more herbivores, they are containing more, you know, toxic secondary metabolites. And there is a big branch of science is called natural product chemistry. So natural product chemists, they discover all the secondary metabolites, their function, and some of them are very good medicine. For example, Taxol, discovered from the plant, and it is now anti-cancer drug. Vincristine and vinblastine, developed from Noyantara, Catharanthus roseus, are very popular anti-cancer drug used in chemotherapy worldwide. So obviously, plants, a Noyantara plant did not produce to treat the cancer, but uh, the, the mechanism uh, contains in this compound to ward off the uh, herbivores are now utilized by the human for their treatment of cancer. So the cost of chemical defense, that means, in case of any defense of a country, it is expensive. Similarly, in plant, chemical defense is also expensive because plant needs enough energy, nutrient for their growth and development and to complete their life cycle. But they spend some of the energy, some of their, uh, you know, uh, nutrition for making the defense substances. So the synthesis of secondary metabolites is costly. Although supply of carbon through photosynthesis supply adequate resources, uh, however, for production of alkaloids, supply of nitrogen is limited. So, in case of phenolic compound, terpenoid compound, plant gets uh, raw materials, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen from photosynthesis, because photosynthesis is a continuous process in presence of light. But for making alkaloid, plant needs additional element like nitrogen, sulfur, or other compound. Nitrogen is very expensive because nitrogen availability of nitrogen in soil is a limiting factor, and nitrogen is utilized for making most of the important biomolecules in the plant cell: DNA, RNA, protein, amino acids, enzymes, and others. The cost of synthesis of alkaloids has been estimated at 5 gram photosynthetic carbon dioxide per gram of toxin compared to the figure of 2.6 gram for a phenolic. That means two times more expensive. This cost has to be balanced against the cost of a new plant growth. Thus, all plants face a dilemma expressed in the words of Harms and Madson: to grow or to defend. So they have to make a balance. They have to grow, they have to defend. And they need to spare their photosynthetic as well as other nutrient to uh, protect them as well as to grow for completing the life cycle. When nutrient levels in soil are adequate for growth, the plant accepts a degree of insect feeding for the leaves and maintains monotherpin production at a moderate level, principally to protect the very young leaves. You see, nice strategy. When enough or adequate nutrient are present in the soil, at that time, some of the leaves, if eaten by the insects, no problem. Nitrate stress induces increase in terpene production, so that insects can no longer feed successfully. This change can be seen as a dynamic response to herbivory when plant cannot grow new leaves and is then more vulnerable to leaf loss. This is the very interesting evolution of feeding deterrents in higher plants. Here you see terpenoid pathway, phenolic pathway, and nitrogen pathway. So, how evolutionary way the plant used different kinds of classes of uh, chemical defense compounds to stop uh, or to ward off or to discourage the herbivores. So please go through it. For example, terpenoid pathway, juvenile hormones, uh, ecdysone produced. Uh, then cucurbitacin. This is another group of bitterness compound. Estrogen in the palm tree. Uh, they are, in some way, in sophisticated way, they affect the physiology of the herbivores, especially the insect. And in most cases, in chemical ecology, you can find lots of examples of insect chemical ecology rather than microbial chemical ecology. Although microbes are the class of microorganism, robust class of organisms, they also interact with the plant through chemical substances. Here you can see biosynthesis and metabolic relationship of three main classes of coumarins found in the umbelliferae family. Sometimes a compound is produced when it is not so active, then it is, changed, modified the structure to make it more toxic. But the herbivore, they somehow know by using some enzyme detoxify and change the compound so that they can tolerate it. Evolution of feeding deterrents. For example, correlation between type of coumarins present and number of species per genus in umbelliferae. 27 genera with only hydroxycoumarin. Average number of species per genus 12. 24 genera with linear furanocoumarins. 11 genera with linear and angular furanocoumarins. And in case of chemical ecology or um, chemical taxonomy is there in plants, different family has different biosynthetic pathway of compound. So you can find diversity of compounds based on the secondary metabolites. Scientists reclassified the plant, and it is reasonably matched with the classification based on the morphology. Very interesting. So chemical taxonomy is another branch of science. Localization of toxin in plants, trichome toxin and their effects on insect. Tomato, Lycopersicon esculentum. In the trichome means hairy or some globular structure which can easily rupture. So routine, chlorogenic acid to tridecanone, reduce larval growth or kill. So these are the different kinds of compounds present in the trichome. If you touch a mint leaf, you can find the menthol, strong aroma. It is nothing but the, burst of the trichome and exposure of the uh, terpenoidal toxin to give strong bad aroma so that, or toxicity to the insect so that insect do not eat it. So this is in short today. I shall discuss later on in detail. You can ask some question. Joy Debnath,
Assalamu alaikum, sir. Yes, sir.
Walaikum Salam. You listen my talk or you were joined lately?
Yes, sir. I guess 10 minutes later.
You missed some of my
Uh,
slides?
yes, sir. First few, I guess.
Yeah, I
I joined.
tried to delay to get you on the
Yes,
board. But anyway, I shall share the lecture. So, do you
yes,
have
sir.
any question on coevolutionary arm race between plants and herbivores? It is not only going on plants and herbivores. In this earth, there are incredible diversity of different organisms. So every organism, for example, a bacterium living in the marine environment, for example, Sundarban, it also compete with other microorganisms for the space, for the nutrients. So they also use different chemical weapons to, win the race to get the more nutrient, to get the more space. This is why bacteria is the wonderful source of many antibiotics. Similarly, fungi. But I discussed here the plant because plants are common source of energy of all living organisms due to they have the photosynthetic capacity to capture solar energy into the chemical energy. I believe you all know the detailed mechanism of photosynthesis, and not just carbon dioxide, water produce the glucose. You need to know the light reaction as well as the dark reaction to photosystem, how they collaboratively work and produce the uh, convert photon into the chemical compound glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate, the first and solid outcome of photosynthesis, which in the cell uh, are utilized to make different organic compounds, including DNA, RNA, protein, lipid, carbohydrate, even enzyme, and all other things, amino acids. Because plant not only do the photosynthesis, plant has another uh, way to get the nutrient from the soil, but 16 or 17 essential nutrients. So photosynthate glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate, which convert into glucose and fructose and other carbon containing compound, they are utilized uh, 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 and in different metabolic pathway to make different compounds. In that case, nutrient elements, nitrogen, um, phosphorus, potassium, and all others are utilized, and they are both essential for their growth and development. And human, uh, even plant cannot get nitrogen from the air, although atmosphere contains 78% nitrogen. So in that case, plant uptake from the soil, and we are getting uh, from the plants or uh, other animal sources. Those also really get the nitrogen from the plant. Some of the microorganisms, they have the ability to fix atmospheric nitrogen, so they are interlinked with the plant. Lots of studies are going on to understand this symbiotic relationship between microorganisms and plants, and how all other large animals getting the nutrition from the plants and other organisms. So directly, indirectly, all living organisms are depend on plant. This is why plant needs to produce different toxic substances to limit the eating by other organisms. And this is the reason we can see the earth is green. If there is no secondary metabolites, no toxic substances in the plant, you cannot find a single plant survived in this earth. Clear?
Yes, sir. Clear, sir. Sir, I have a question. Sir, you have said that these toxin are produced word of different kinds of animals and herbivores. But so there are relations between them. Like if the animals do not eat their fruit, how their seed will spread. Likewise, as an example, we can talk about the neem plant, which produces bitter substances. So if it is bitter, then why the birds or other insects will eat it? And if they do not eat it, then how the seed of neem will be spread?
Yes, a good question. Actually, plants are called sitting duck. This is a proverb that means plant cannot move away, even in the harsh condition. Very tough situation plants are sessile, they cannot move. So plant needs other organisms for many purposes. For example, for their pollination, for their seed dispersal from one place to another. And herbivores, you know, intentionally or unintentionally do that. And plants produce lots of lure to, you know, use the herbivores to uh, disseminate their seeds all over the world. For example, wheat. Wheat blast came to Bangladesh through the seed because uh, Bangladesh imported a large quantity of wheat grain from Brazil because wheat grain contains uh, carbohydrate protein and 20% of the human demand of protein and 25% protein and 20% calorie are satisfied by the wheat. So you see uh, how uh, herbivore, human is also one of the member of herbivore. In case of secondary metabolites, you told if plant produce lots of toxin, how herbivore disseminate the seeds. Herbivore, over the period of time through co-evolutionary process, they adapted to the toxin. Not all the toxins, specific, few number of the species. In that case, in any plant, if you carefully look at, they have several strategies to disseminate their seeds. Some of the plants produce very finest seed, and seed contains hairy organs so that mild wind can, disseminate them when fruit ripen, it bursts, and then it can easily fly through the wind and move the distant places. This is one physical strategy. In the mangrove forest, if you go there, viviparous uh, germination. So plants seed germinate inside the fruit, and when it drops, uh, within 6 hours, it grows very fast and settle on the sediment. Uh, and even if it it is washed out, it moves other place and through the water also some of the seeds are disseminated. But in case of insect and other herbivore, animal herbivore, yes, fruits are more nutritious than other part of the plant. They contain different aromatic substances. uh, and they are the lure of attracting the uh, herbivore so that they eat them. So human even eat many of the plant fruits which contain small seeds, and through human excreta they are disseminated. Human can go from one country to another and it can be disseminated. Similarly, birds, they are also doing the same job. You can see the ripened fruit, they have a strong aroma. Ripened fruit, very attractive color. So, a ripened fruit can be easily detected by the herbivore, and herbivore through uh, getting the fruit nutrition from the fruits, um, unconsciously they disseminate, and consciously human you know carry the seeds from one country to another country. Bangladesh Agricultural University has a big germplasm developed by Professor Rohim. He brought all the exotic materials from other country, not officially. So uh, the dissemination of a plant from one place to another, although they contain the toxin, uh, the herbivores, including human, are doing. This is why, you know, although there are some uniqueness in the diversity of plants in some regions, but common plants, depending on the geographic location, they are available all over the world. Have you got the answer?
Yes, sir. I got the answer. Thank you, sir.
Welcome. Other students, please ask at least one question. Fatima,
Yes, sir.
is this topic interesting?
Yes, sir. Obviously interesting.
Do you have any question?
No, sir. I have no questions, sir. Actually, we two of us, me and Joy, have another class at 11:15 a.m.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Mm,
Okay. Still, you have 1 minute, two
yes,
minutes
sir. Two
times.
minutes.
Within 1 minute, I shall stop. So you can ask question. Shafi and Rahat.
Uh, no, sir. No question.
Rahat.
Sir, no questions today, sir.
Okay. Next time I shall ask you a question and start the topic with asking the question. So be prepared. I shall share the video with you, and I wish you have a good day and good time. During COVID-19, please stay safe and also enjoy learning through using digital technologies. Thank you so much.